All right, this is your creation. My name is Starseed Bey. How is everyone doing today? This should be a rather interesting talk and conversation. I've been wanting to talk about karma for quite a while now. There's so many ways that this topic can go. But at the end of the day, I've really noticed from a lot of conversations and talks with people is that a lot of times this karma thing can really get to your head. It can mess with you. It can make you it can make you a mean person too. Like, I'm gonna curse that person over there. They're gonna meet their karma for what they've done to me. Provoking anger within your being, and hoping that the people who did wrong to you will also come across the same curse within their lives. It's quite fascinating, it really is. So that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about today. So it should be rather interesting. So if this is your first time watching me, I am on Facebook and YouTube. So if you're watching me on YouTube, definitely like, subscribe, share out. I talk about many things from spirituality to subjects that we're talking about today, as well as stuff that's going on in the world. I'm also on Facebook.com/RealTalk Bey. So definitely like the page, share it out. If you got any questions and concerns, that's definitely the site at the moment that you can get a hold of me. I'm also on Patreon.com/Bey. The site's still a work in progress, but it is there for you guys if you need it. So karma. So, man, I don't even know where to even begin with this topic. But for me personally, I came across the word karma back in 2010. I never really heard the word or even knew what it meant until I started looking into the New Age perception of things. And it always seems that they always end up coming across some of the most interesting concepts in the New Age, or what's deemed the New Age. But in actuality, this stuff is just part of the norm. It's words that we're not really introduced to unless you're in those kind of groups. So I looked into karma, and man, I don't know what it is about people when they begin to adventure into meditation, and they begin to adventure into spirituality and magic and all these things. The most common thing that that I get across with people is the mirror effect, right? Is that whatever you see within a person is a self-reflection of you, and and that's something that we really have to look at it from a realistic perception, right? Because that can be a scapegoat for themselves, right? Hey, how's it going, John? It can be a scapegoat for themselves for using that mirror effect, because who's what is being benefited when you're talking with somebody, when you talk to an individual. That's why I bring up the karma thing, is because who's in the wrong? Is there a wrong? Is there a right way? How can we bring this into a mature manner, a calm, cool, collective manner? That's where we have to look at our life. Look at the reflections of what we're bringing into the world. We're born into a world of separation. We're born into a world of diversity, and just limitless possibilities of life choices. And a lot of times, we get sucked into the world, and we feel that we have to please people. We feel we have to be an audience to people. We feel we have to talk down to others or to ourselves. The concept of loving ourselves Man, there's just so many things. Hey, how's it going, Talea? Every day is a beautiful day. I never look at a new year as a way of a start, but it's just another day. Every day is something beautiful. Every day is something special. We always should look at life and reflect on life. But never let a tagline of a new year keep you from your journey. So yeah, that's a different video. I haven't made my New Year's video, but that's my thought on it. But anyways, let's see. John says, "Are we looking at karma from the Hindu perspective?" We're looking at from the Starseed Bey perspective. Basically, and that's why I'm making this video, is because of the diversity of these words. I'm about bringing these words into play and looking at it from every point of view. Every point of view. So many people get stuck in, just like what John said, the Hindu version of karma, or the New Age version of karma, or you look up in the dictionary what karma is. Any kind of perception, it can be, you can limit the perception, or you can redefine the perception, or you have to grow from it. I've talked about this in so many videos, is that we're born into a world of programs. We're born into a world, and I just said this earlier, we're born into a world of dividing, diversity. This world is not in a good place. This world is ran by very greedy, lustful people. And that gets real deep. But and that's part of the distraction, right? I clicked in Netflix, and I've been watching Supergirl on there while I was cooking dinner, and before I was able to watch Supergirl, they showed this trailer for a Taylor Swift, and her concert thing is called Redemption. And I told my wife, I'm like, yeah, that is the reason why you do not sell your soul, is because it's crazy, because they try to create this pedestal for other people, and you watch the people in the crowd just awing them like they're some kind of god or goddess. It's crazy stuff, man. It really is. So anyways, I'm getting distracted here. So yeah, so anyways, let me get back on track here. I'm getting distracted here. So at the end of the day, karma, we really have to be mature in the manner and look at the reflections of who's talking to who, right? Who's talking to who is mature in the manner. The person who is mature is going to leave things as they are, and will plant seeds. Will plant seeds in the person's life. Be like, hey, this person's talking smack about me, saying things behind my back, trying to make me look like I'm the bad guy, right? And you have to not lash out, but be mature in it. Be like, hey, I can see your point of view, but that's not the situation that I'm going through, right? Or that's not what I am talking about in that way, right? And usually it's the person that lashes out is that reflection. And it goes both ways, so with my reaction, it gets the opposite effect of what they wanted. They wanted that person, they wanted me to lash back out to them. But when I give them a different response that they weren't prepared for, it creates a trigger point for them. They're like, well, there got to be something wrong with this guy. How come he's not getting heated? How come he's not getting angry? Right? And this goes a lot of ways. even in the work environment. I notice, that sometimes, there can be a dirty game that is played. You can be cool, calm, and collective, do your job correctly, but if you don't play by the rules, or at least to their standards, or like I was watching an episode of Supergirl is a good example, is that in the military, right, you got the chain of command, and the higher you are, the more of a jerk you have to be, and you have to talk down to people. You have to make them feel like crap, and that they're useless, they're worthless, that somebody else can take your position. You're just a pawn, a body, and you are unworthy, right? You should feel special just because you're working at this job now, because I can get rid of you whenever I want to, kind of perception. That's a harsh perception, but it's very real. It's real in the work environment, and it's a sad perception. It's a sad perception, and it ties into karma, and that's why I'm talking about tying magic spells into this very thing, because you are invoking, you are using your sword, your words, to invoke pain to somebody, to invoke sadness or guilt, things of that nature, right? It's very fascinating for me personally, because it has such a huge effect and impact on people. Like I said, I'm around people who are narcissists. I'm around people who are ego-driven, who like to gossip and talk about other people and all that stuff. And man, it just blows my mind. It really does. And when you are real with somebody, they seem to kind of stray away. They're like, man, I don't want to talk to that person. He's going to try to persuade me into a different way of thinking, or something like that. I noticed that when I was in the break room today, there was somebody that was going to sit right next to me, and they decided to move to another table, and you can view that in many different ways, but a lot of times, sometimes, people just don't feel comfortable, and it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you or bad with you. It's just, sometimes, people want to be by themselves, like myself. It's cold outside, so I can't go outside, but on my breaks, during the summertime and stuff, I was taking my breaks out in my car, and it did a world of it worked great for me. I mean, I really felt like just everything just relieved, and it just was a sense of peace for that 15 minutes that I was able to be outside. So it definitely changes the atmosphere a lot. Man, being around so many people, it really affects you a lot. It really does, with your energy, being empathic and all that stuff. It's crazy stuff. But with karma and everything, that's what we have to look at, is the influence that we have on others. And I'm gonna go ahead and bring religion, God and Christ and all that stuff into this, because this is a big thing within the Christian community, or just in religion in general, is the fear of allowing people to lose their faith, right? To lose their faith with God, to lose their trust with Christ, right? You're bringing these new concepts in. You're giving people new ideas, new perceptions, new viewpoints, testing people, that's one of the key things, and really, as you mature in life and you want to help people, you have to talk with people in parables, and you really learn why Christ did that. In the Bible, Christ always spoke in parables, and he told his disciples the reasons behind the parables. is to make people think, learn, grow, and develop. And you have to also do that when you mature in life. You know, if you want to help people in life, you got to test them in some way. I did this in Truth Seekers Discord. You know, I gave the question of, you know, what were people's views of God, right? And they would give me different answers, and I would give them a alternative answer, right? An alternative answer to kind of give them a different way of things. You know, are they going to choose with those kind of answers in situations, right? This is what I do. With those kind of situations, are they going to limit themselves and just say, hey, you know, you believe what you want to believe, Adam, I believe what I want to believe, and leave it like that? Or be like, well, let's look into Adam's perception, right? Let's look into a different way of looking at things. You know, it doesn't mean that Adam's right, but let me look into this matter. You know, why does Adam view it differently? You know, what is the what makes him think differently, or what makes a Joe think differently, or a Susie think differently, right? That's how you open up maturity within your life, is looking outside the box, thinking outside the box, you know. And that's where karma comes in again, is that a lot of people are scared that they're going to make people fall from God, you know. And that's where you have to bring that in, you know. I talked about Christ all throughout my videos, but I always had to word it differently. A lot of times I tamed it down because I was being labeled as religious, or I would be backlash, be like, well, you can't be talking about God like that. You can't be talking about Christ like that. One of my most watched videos is Yahweh Satan, right? Is Yahweh Satan? And there's a lot of hints and tips that surround that, right? And I talk about the whole thing and everything in that video, but people, just because they read the title, they assume that's what the video is about, and that's a limited perception, right? So we have to be mature in everything. We really do, and we have to break out of that borderline of self-doubt or worrying, you know. And this comes into play with a lot of people, of worrying about what other people think, or worrying, you know, oh man, you know, am I good enough to go to heaven? You know, am I going to have enough accomplishments to go to heaven? You know, I've done so many bad things in my life, you know, I don't deserve to go to heaven, so I'm going to be damned and go to hell, right? You know, these are the perceptions that people put into their lives. So we really have to be mature in that level, and talk in the words of all walks of life. You know, I've been really trying to make sure that I talk about all walks of life, and it's not just search and perception, because when you talk about God, you talk about Christ, you think Christianity and religion, things of that nature. But then when you bring meditation and the chakras and Kundalini, the Naga serpent, the serpent of knowledge and wisdom, things like that, it throws people off. It's like, wait a minute, what? Why are you talking about it in that way? And that's what I'm all about, is blending all of this stuff together, trying to look past this stuff. You know, karma at the end of the day is a curse. You put a curse on yourself, you're putting a curse on others. And for those who are able to see, the picture that I chose for this is simply that, you know, whoever talks smack about me, I'm going to send a curse back to them. You know, I'm going to send the energy back to them, so then they can feel what they were bringing to me, right? And I've been talking about that myself. You know, if I feel that there's a negative, if there's something negative, or a person's sad, or I just feel I need to send a prayer out to a person, you know, I'm going to send that energy out to them. You know, I'm giving them a silent prayer, and an energy current to them. You know, that is my will and intent, and it's all about that will and intent. You know, throughout your life It's about the will and intent of what you're bringing forth, what you're creating in your atmosphere and in your life. Man. Oh, and John and Talair talking up a storm in here. Thank you guys for joining me in the chat room. Let's see what we got going on here real quick. Let's see. See, John says, well, people can get stuck on the true definition of the word, where karma will come in your next life. Ooh, that's a good point. I'm going to go ahead and touch on that too. Let's see, whereas most people just use it as an instant karma thing. And Talay says, I was given so much understanding in karma, it's truly best to keep silence. It can be, but that's why I'm talking about this, because you gotta be able to speak your point of view. You know, I've been blocked, and people just don't want to talk to you when you bring up something, when you bring up an alternative situation or solution, because it's not part of their belief or their faith. They turn you off, they shut you out, right? And that's not a good mindset to have. You know, I mean, I could see if they were like just a troll and just nagging at you, saying you're stupid, you're dumb, blah 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 blah, all that stuff. You know, yeah, that would warrant a blocking. But you know, if you're trying to understand another person, you know, you don't block them. You're trying to learn from each other and grow from each other. You know, that's what this life is all about. Is about maturity. You know, and I've talked about this many times. You know, is that we're children. We turn to teenagers, think that we're adults. We know everything about life. We're ready and prepared. And then when we hit our 20s, we begin to question things, look at our life. We get a choice to either stay a teenager and continue to be rebellious, or we start to mature in life. And we also end up discovering in our 20s and sometimes in our teenage years, be like, dang it, my parents are right. They warned me that I might make these kind of decisions and the consequences behind those decisions. So, and that's all part about maturity. You know, it's our life as we grow older to help the young. You know, I got kids, I got to teach them the ways of life. You know, if there is stuff, you know, that I didn't agree with, you know, I'm going to bring that to them. But, you know, as a whole, I want them to be able to have enough knowledge and wisdom in life to know, you know, hey, there's going to be a diverse of people that are going to be in your life. There are people that are going to talk down to you. There are people that are going to love you and respect you. You know, there's people that are going to test your faith and belief. You know, there's people that are going to talk down to you. You're going to get into the work environment. You're going to have to deal with people that are going to talk down to you. You got to be ready for it. You got to be prepared for it, and things like that. You know, when you're in the situation, it's a little different, but at least they'll have an idea of what life is going to bring to them. You know, and my job here is trying to create things to make our children's lives better, to make their children's lives better. You know, that's the awesome thing about the internet and working together with each other, is that we're growing a new way of thinking, a new way of viewing things. I was watching a commercial because, you know, YouTube, they're trying to get you to buy the premium YouTube, so then there's no commercials. But they were showing a commercial for Gaia.com, and they were talking about that very thing of bringing in all of these new things. And one of the guys said, you know, that it would have been nice to have learned all this stuff in school. You know, it would have been nice to learn about this stuff. It would have been nice to learn about the spirit, learn about the soul. You know, not just some religion thing or something you go to church with. You know, it's part of us. You know, learning about the energy and the elements, empathic abilities, man, just all this stuff, and it's our responsibility now is to bring that out now. There's so many people that are writing books now. I'm writing my book. I finally have a solid foundation that I can go with now. So it's our responsibility to do that, and bring up these subjects as well as karma, because so many people use the karma word to backlash people and all that stuff. So we really have to broaden the horizons, and be there for people, right? Because when people lose faith, because there is going to be people that lose faith with God and lose their connection with God and Christ. And remember, I always say this, is that God and Christ, the door is always open, but it is us, the individual, that chooses to close that door. And it is us as an individual who chooses to open up that door. And the beautiful thing about, at least my personal encounter with Christ, is that when you are in your darkest state of mind, when you question life and you just feel like everything's just went to hell, basically, Christ will open up that door, and he will shine his light on you. And that's where it is your choice, your will and intent, and the power of surrender to embrace that light again. Again, I was watching True Seekers podcast. I haven't watched it all the way, but he had a lady on here talking about her death experience and her encounter with these entities, very similar to what I view with things. I always talk about the ancestors, talking about my guides and guardians, right? The very same thing. That podcast was a confirmation for me and synchronicity for me of like, hey, I'm experiencing that too. It makes what I'm experiencing more real, and it becomes more real, and that's what I always talk about. There's belief where you don't know if it's real or not. You believe in it and study it, and then once it starts to become truth in your life, it becomes a faith. And once it becomes a faith, you study more and more and more, and then you'll learn that it is more and more true, and it becomes a part of your reality. It becomes a part of your being, because it's true. There's synchronicities and all this stuff that takes place. It really is uncanny. It really is. I'm not too sure where I was going with that. But at the end of the day, that element, and I think that's where I was going with it, is that that we're never alone. There's always beings and entities that are there to guide us and help us. But a lot of times we get stuck in our own ego and the ways of the world, that we lose touch with that spiritual aspect of self. We lose touch with our ancestors, with our guides, with the Christ within us, the anointing within us. We lose touch with that. So we have to bring that back. We have to bring it back. We have to bring spirituality back into a state of it not being religious, but just a way of life. It's to help people. It's to help people. Same with karma. Is that I've seen things. There's people that I've been surrounded. That have abused people. They've abused their spouses or their children, or their friends, or their nieces and nephews. It's just, it's very frustrating. It really is. But at the end of the day, we have to realize that they will get caught at the end of the day, and that they will pay the price for what they've done. You can't hide this stuff in the darkness forever, because it will be brought out. Sometimes, and sadly, sometimes it could take 10 years, 15 years, or it could take, 4 years, or whatever it may be. You do what you can. If if someone's hurting, you try to reach out your hand to them. You try to help them out, and do the best you can. But, there's always so much you can do. We can't all be police officers, right? but we can do what we can. If we're in touch with people and we know they're being abused, try to do what you can. Send prayers, send healing out to them. But eventually, they will have to pay the price for what they've done. Darkness will never be hidden forever. And that was a very interesting thing too, because I was just reading is that I guess the and I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure that's what I read, is that the Pope resigned, so now there's no Pope. I guess the Pope and the Pope's right-hand man or something like that resigned because of all of this stuff that's going on within the Catholic Church. So now there's no Pope. So it's quite interesting. We'll see how that unfolds. But the people won't tolerate it. People are not going to tolerate this stuff. Anything that's hidden in darkness will never be accepted. Hurting children will never be accepted. And that's one of the very interesting things about people who go to prison who abuse children is the prison mates will actually gain up on people who have abused children and will just kick the crap out of them. That stuff is just not, it's not right. It isn't. So it's very interesting. Anyways, yeah, let's get off that subject there. But it's the point is that the bad will always be taken care of at the end of the day. We can't save everybody, but we can do our part in doing that. And that's what we're here for, is to help people. Same with magic. I've been talking about magic a lot, magic spells and all this stuff. And the reason why I bring it up is because so many people use magic. They use it unintentionally, or they're into magic. They're into becoming a witch or becoming a warlock, things of that nature, playing with stuff they should not be playing with. Playing with Ouija boards, bringing in spirits and entities. They're playing with fire and they don't know what they're dealing with. And it's just a level of maturity. You need to know what you're getting yourself into. Man, it's crazy stuff. It really is. Let's see. Hey, how's it going, White Waves? Let's see. White Waves was saying she hadn't heard about the Pope. Yeah, I read it on something. I'm pretty sure it was on Yahoo.com. It was like one of the headline news things. I think that's where I read it from. Either that, or it was maybe I was watching Jacob Israel. He's a big YouTuber. It could have been about that too. But yeah, it's definitely something very interesting. There's a lot of things, and I really feel that there's going to be a lot more revelations unfolding within this perceived year. It just really feels like that there's something emerging. I've been able to be more myself and bring out this stuff a lot more because I think we're reaching that next step. That next step. A lot of people are questioning things. Churches are becoming more empty. Even the New Age community, is breaking down as well. I've noticed that quite a bit because, a lot of the New Age people are all lovey-dovey. But then we bring in real life, be like, hey, people are still being abused. Oh no, that's not part of my reality. But you tell them, be like, yeah, people are still being abused. It's sad, but it's still true. So we have to look at this and see what we can do to help people out. You can't turn off something that is unity, I guess unity, or the world, right? The world is big and huge, diverse. That's part of our job. Here is to learn from each other and create with each other. Life is all about creation. It's not about destruction. When someone is destroying creation, that has to be dealt with. The powers that be that we have right now, they're about greed, lust, divide and conquer perception. That has to be dealt with. It's being dealt with. It's crazy how it works, but there's people who are working inside, and it's just going to be a change of command. It isn't that the laws that are put in place are bad. It's the people that are in place, and they're going to constantly shift out there. They're going to be they're going to shift the bad people out and put the good people in, and it's going to be that. There's going to be a change of the guard. There's going to be a change of how things are ran in the world. And I do feel that America, for some weird, strange reason, is the center point. It's weird, but it just seems like America is the center point, or the United States is a center point of change. Whether it be good or bad, it's bizarre. It really is. But it's because of all of the lies, that we've been taught. And that's where the karma thing comes in again. All the lies that we've been taught. Is how the founding fathers that have left a paper trail of just how easy it is to persuade the people and feed them garbage to make them look like there's something great and spectacular, right? We learn about the founding fathers in school, right? We thought that they were the greatest people in the world. They brought peace and freedom and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of darkness and a lot of greed and a lot of just dark magic crap that they had to do to get them to the kingdom that they have created for themselves. Man, it's crazy, man. It really is. And that's what we have to look at in a realistic perception. We have to look at things from a realistic perception. We can't be living in just the mindset of what we think the world is like, or how we think the world is like. You look into the Illuminati and the Freemasons and things like that. We can't just think that they're all evil and things of that nature. You look into do research on the Illuminati and stuff, and you really learn that it was a program of getting the rich folks together, of planning and strategizing ideas for businesses. That was the whole idea and concept of the Illuminati and the Freemasons, was getting the world leaders together, United Nations together, to talk about politics. But it branched off into something more because they got into dark magic and black magic. You look into Aleister Crowley and all that stuff. They learned about magic and energy and that nature. It'd be like, oh, hey, if we get these entities to help us build our empire, will be indestructible because we're using the unseen forces. This is real stuff, and that's where things begin to become not a game anymore. It wasn't about politics of business. It became much more on a personal level, and that's what we're dealing with now, is black magic stuff. It ain't no joke, and that's what we're dealing with, and that's why we have to use our energy, our guides and guardians, and things like that to counteract what they have brought upon the world, right? It says in the Bible, that the world is owned by the Prince of Air, right? So yeah, it gets real deep in that. But anyways, let's talk about past lives real quick, and then I gotta get out of here soon because I gotta go to the gym. No excuses. Go to the gym, man. If you guys are not going to the gym, go to the gym. You gotta be determined to keep moving and keep going. So yeah, let's look at the things we got going on here in the chat room real quick. Then we'll talk about past lives. Let's see here. Let's see. Talea was talking about what is the Hindu perspective, and John said, well, just that karma is not really an instant thing now. This is not an assumption of all Hindus. Speaking of the norm, that karma comes not in this life but the next. And that's what we're going to talk about. Let's see. So yeah. So anyways, yeah. So next life stuff. I was watching something. Man, what was it? There was some video I was watching, and they were saying that those who do the most horrible acts that you could ever do in this life, they end up becoming something like an animal or an insect or something like that. Like say you were a real horrible person, and then you became a little fish, and then you were eaten by a shark, and then you end up becoming an insect, and then a bird ate you. You know, things like that. You know, you ended up becoming a turtle, and then surrounded by pigeons or seagulls, and they were pooping on you all the time. Right? So that would be the definition of karma within your next life. And that's what I was talking about with True Seekers podcast today. She was talking about the same thing, you know, about whether you can choose, if you want to choose to go into the light or remain in the darkness, right? Because, you know, it's kind of on the, it's really hard to talk about, you know, life after this one, you know, because it is an uncertain phenomenon. You know, we can talk about experiences, we can hear about people talking about how they've died and their experiences through that. People who have experienced psychedelics and had crazy encounters, right? Never experienced that myself, but you know, I've went into a deep meditation state where, you know, I've had similar experiences to those who have been on psychedelics, you know. So, you know, I know that you can reach that level whether you're on psychedelics or not. You know, it's a state of mind, it's a state of being, and you really have to have that will and intent of where you're going. And you know, with all of my experiences, you know, I've been very vocal about my past lives, or what I think are past lives. But, you know, in actuality, is there really past lives to begin with? Because if time doesn't exist, that would mean that every experience that you have happens at the same time. So a perceived past life, like say I've been a Lyran cat being many times, and those memories pop up, be like, oh, it's a memory, so it must be of the past. But in actuality, that memory's popping up because you're more empathic and in tune at that moment with the other self of you, right? The other piece of your spirit, that you're on the same wavelength. So you're experiencing the same thing at the same time. So you're like, oh, so it's not really a memory. It's actually happening at that very moment. And when I'm tuned into there, they're actually tuned into me and be like, man, who is this guy just sitting down here talking to some cameras? So it's quite interesting. And that's what we have to really start looking into now. Is looking, you know, is it really past lives, or is it just we're tapping into another reality of what's happening at the same time? Well, I've had past lives of being in Jerusalem and seeing Christ hung up on the cross. Again, you know, you may be tapping into that moment, right? That moment, because everything is about moments. You know, everything is about memories and moments, you know, dates and times. That's why I am always so vocal about, you know, not falling into the deception of the new year, right? So many people count down, right? You're supposed to be rising up in life or wising up in life. Why are you counting down, right? So many people are like, oh yeah, I can't wait till this year ends. It was a crappy year. I can't wait to start 2019 and life is going to be good, and then I can rise up in 2019, right? You know, it's a mind perception. You know, there is no such thing as these days and months and years and all that stuff. It's a creative perception. It's to throw you off. When you think about your life in a year perception, it expands the creation. It expands your creation. But it also can delay your creation or allow you to fall away from your creation or your perception of life. That's why I always talk about the 28 to 30 day cycle, allowing the moon to kind of be a guideline in your life, to kind of narrow it down so you're only dealing with 28 days, trying to get a hold of your life, look at what's in your life, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what's benefiting you, what's not benefiting you, what are you creating, setting deadlines for yourself. A 28-day deadline is a lot better than a whole year, right? A lot of people try to work out and want to lose weight, and they want to stop drinking and doing drugs and things of that nature, and they think they have a whole year to do that. But you narrow it down to say, hey, you only got 28 days to make your life right. So you need to get to work right now so you can meet that 28-day deadline. That changes your perception a lot. It does. And once you reach that 28 days, you do a self-reflection of those 28 days. Then you're like, oh, I see the problem. I see where I fell. I see what I need to do to improve in my life and look at my life differently. Compared to a year, you are only going to focus on the past 6 months or whatever it may be, and you're going to just leave it in the past, and you're going to think you have a whole year to do something different. This is the karma effect again. You create your own karma within your life because you choose to, for one, make excuses, but two, is that you can change your life whatever amount of time you want. You can do cold turkey and just stop and just never look back again. There's a friend that's on Discord, True Seekers Discord, and he was showing this app that he downloaded. I'm pretty sure it was an app of him, of how long it's been since he smoked, how much money he saved, how much time he has given back to himself, and things of that nature. There's apps out there that can help you progress or keep track of making those goals a reality, right? Making those goals a reality. Because, if you want to be successful in your life and you want to better your life, because that's what this is all about. This is what me making videos is all about, is bettering your life. Is if you want to better your life, you got to look at things to help you better your life. And one of the key things that you have to look into is learning to love yourself, respect your body, and not worry about what other people are thinking about you, right? And that's the first step into becoming a better person, a better you, a perfect you. Is there ever perfection? Not really, but there is a better version of you that you can obtain if you choose to. So I could go on and on about this, so I gotta close this video out. So at the end of the day, with karma is a mindset and a magic spell that we put on ourselves and we put on each other. We got to stop it. We got to stop it and be mature and respectful to ourselves and to others, and observe the situations. You got to be mature about it. Observe the situations that you put into. Not the mirror effect of, oh, well, you're talking like this to me because you feel that way about yourself. Right? You got to be mature. If people are going to lash out at you and argue and complain about you and at you, just let them do it. Let it get out. A lot of times you have to let that stuff out. You keep all that stuff bottled up inside. It's not good. It's not good. It's going to lash out. And, and conveniently, that was the episode of Supergirl I was watching. is that she had a lot of frustrations built within her. And with her being Supergirl, right? She has to hold back, or otherwise she could just obliterate the whole world if she wanted to. So she had a lot of anger issues. She wasn't dealing with her feelings or what was inside her. So she was getting more and more enraged because it was when you don't deal with things, you put a wall over yourself. So you don't deal with it. Okay, I'm going to shut the door. And then a new problem happens. Okay, I'm not going to deal with it now. I'm going to shut a door. That's 2 doors. Okay, and then another problem happens. Okay, you're like, okay, I'm going to have to deal with this later. You close that door. That's 3 doors. And then another thing happens. Oh, okay, I'm going to deal with this later. That's 4 doors. And then the first door is starting to say the pipes burst, right? Say it's a room and the pipes burst. Oh no, the flooding is starting to come in. You're like, oh, I can't deal with this stuff now. I got to deal with all these other problems that I have in my life. I can't deal with this now. So it's going to create and build anger and rage and frustration within your life. Be like, oh, I can't deal with this now. And that's what happens. And so many people go through this, is that they don't want to deal with the situations as they happen or as they unfold. You have to learn about that process, and that's where the perceived karma comes in, is because you're going to have to deal with that again. You're going to have to deal with that situation again. The same situation is going to happen, but with different people, different circumstances. But the main thing you ignored is going to be in that again. It's going to be a rerun. That's why I try to help people say, hey, work a 28 to 30 day cycle with the moon and look at your life, a self-reflection on your life. You're going to see where you're struggling in life, or see what you're ignoring in your life. You're going to see this stuff. Talea is talking about chickens. Oh yeah, White Wave has I think White Wave has chickens that she raises. Let's see, what was she saying? White Wave saying, when you hang out with chickens, you don't have to deal with that. That reminds me of I play I've always been a big fan of the Zelda games, and I've been playing the newest one on the Switch, and I was like, man, I wonder if I beat up on the chickens, if they'll start attacking me. And my kids are watching me. I was like, oh, I hit the chickens 4 times, they're not attacking me. But sure enough, there's like a herd of 20 chickens that came in and just started obliterating me and almost killed off my character. But I was laughing. It was pretty funny. Hey, how's it going, Tabor? From Texas. How's the weather there in Texas? It's been like 16 below here in good old Wyoming, so it's been pretty cold. I'm not looking forward to going to the gym, but no excuses. Got to go to the gym. So yeah, so at the end of the day, White Wave says that her little chickens are little pieces of heaven. Let's see. But yeah, so at the end of the day, it's all about bettering yourself, bettering your life, looking and redefining these words, right? Redefining these words, letting people know, hey, it's okay to talk about things. Don't worry about if someone's going to stumble or fall, right? It brings up a song from DC Talk. I really like. They were really revolutionary back in the day. That band was, right. They're labeled Christian, right? But they were really unique for their time. They really set the tables, or turned the tables for Christian music. Be like, it was okay to reach out to the people, right? My mom was always so fascinated with them because they would have the Dove Awards and things like that. They would come out with holy jeans, long hair, and just wearing the grunge look back in the day. And it really redefined things within the Christian community. Be like, it was okay. Yep, Jesus Freak. Yep, I love that album. That was a great album. But within that album, and that's part of change, is that it took just that group alone. DC Talk redefined Christian music. There was other bands too. Strapper's a good example. But to me, DC Talk, I think, was revolutionary in that way, because it was okay to love God and Christ, but still be able to look at the world for what it is, accept people for who they are. Not everybody knows God or Christ. A lot of people hate God and Christ because their life is in turmoil and stuff like that. So they were bringing that to the people, be like, hey, Christ is good in my life, and Christ can be good in yours. And there was a song that they put on that Jesus Freak album called "What If I Stumble, What If I Fall?" Right? And that's a question that we all ask ourselves in life is, what if I stumble, what if I fall? What is going to be the outcome of our life? What's going to be the outcome of our life? And that's where we have to have a foundation. Christ is my foundation, and that's what we have to bring people. Be like, hey, when we're looking at new things, new perceptions, new concepts, you're looking into meditation, but the church tells you that it's demonic and evil, but you feel in your heart and you feel that Christ is saying, hey, you need to look into this. It's going to help you in your life. We got to be able to embrace that diversity. Being spiritual is a lot more than just going to church and reading the Bible. It's so much more, but it's bringing a foundation, right? The New Age community refuses to find a steady foundation, right? They get confused. Like I was talking about, there's the ancestors and my guides and guardians that I talk to. There could be 20, 30, 50, 100. Each one has their own unique perception. And they will teach you a different way of life, a different way of communication in life. So we have to listen. We have to pay attention. We have to spiritually listen and learn. We're surrounded by human doctrine and perceptions and viewpoints and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, we have to have a personal journey and relationship within the I Am Self. And within the I Am Self, you got to have some kind of foundation. Christ is the best foundation. I have not seen any other foundation that is as strong and testimonial. I don't know how to say that word, right? It's such a strong testimony about what and how it affects people, how it touches people's lives. This Christ character, Christ laid a strong footprint in history, and it's uncanny, and it works, and it helps others. People who are in the New Age community who fall away from it end up going back into religion again, but they still have the elements of the perceived New Age. But at the end of the day, it's what Christ taught us. Was all this stuff, was meditation and the higher mind. That's what they talk about. So many times they talk about in the Bible about them going up into the mountains, right? Going up into the mountains and talking with God or the Creator, right? But you do research and stuff like that, and they're going into a deep state of meditation. They're going up through their I am and going into the highest state of their perception, or their third eye, or their magi eye, this would be the highest of the mountain. This would be your mountain. You're down here spiritually, and you have to go up into the mountains so you can talk with the Creator up above. It's just, man, there's just so many parables and things of that stuff. But at the end of the day, Christ is a beautiful foundation. And that's a good place to start. And I'm going to go ahead and end it on that. So at the end of the day, don't worry about karma. I mean, if you're doing something bad, whatever is within the darkness will be found out. Period. You may have to wait. Frustrating, trust me, because I go through this in my life. Like I said, there's people who have done bad things, and you just have to be patient. You pray about it, surrender it to God or Christ. Just surrender that hatred that you have. Don't ever let hatred build up within you. You got to learn the power of surrender and to let it go. It will. The light of day will be shed upon that darkness at the end of the day. Definitely. So don't allow this karma thing to allow you to fall away from things, right? We just have to bring things into a realistic perception. And that's what I'm all about, and that's what, when you guys hear this stuff, is that we have to be able to do that. And it opens up so many doors. That's what I've really learned, is that when you're mature and calm, cool, and collective within your mindset, is that you can talk to people no matter what kind of walks of life they are. At the end of the day, they can seem to be able to listen and learn. But if you're trying to shove a certain religion down their throat, or going, hey, you need to go into meditation and do this stuff, just forcing people, you got to be able to show them the benefits of meditation. What are you going to go into in meditation? What is it going to teach you? What are you going to learn from it? And just show them that. Allow them to go, hey, Adam was talking about, that I need to do that personal growth. I need to take that personal walk, that personal leap of faith in my life, to look within myself. Let me see if Christ is a good foundation. Let me go inside myself and see what I discover. See if I can get closer to the Creator. See if I can get in contact with my ancestors, or my guides, or my ETs. Hey, have a good night, Talea. Whatever it may be, just have that kind of mindset, so then people can have a more relaxed view of things, instead of struggling and be like, oh, I need to go look into Hinduism, or I need to go look into Christianity, or I need to go look into the New Age movement, or I need to go look at this book or that book, or whatever. Everything is within you. That self-discovery and that journey is within you. Christ is a good guideline, or a guide or guardian within you is going to guide you through where you need to go. I'm just starting to ramble on here. So at the end of the day, it's all about bettering your life, bettering yourself, finding a foundation. Don't worry about karma. If someone's doing something bad, they will be dealt with. Just let it go, move on, and go from there. The mirror reflection, take it with a grain of salt. Observe your life. If there's something you need to work on, definitely look at your life, observe it. But just if someone says the mirror effect to you, just go, okay, well, I'll look into it. But please look at yourself as well. Look at how you communicate to me as well. If they block you, well, then that's a sign that they don't want to grow in life and develop their life. They're stuck in their own certain way and their own certain belief. You just have to let it go. And it's tough. It really is, because when people want to block me, I always question, like, hey, don't you want to learn and grow from each other? No, I don't. Bye. And that's what they say. So you just gotta let blah 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 blah. You got to leave them be, and allow them to progress in their life, because a lot of times, you did your part. They're going to remember the conversation that you had, and eventually, sometimes it will come back to them. Just like when we are teenagers and young adults, we don't think our parents are telling us good stuff until we make a bad decision. We're like, dang it, our parents are right. I should have listened to them. and that's a part of life, living, learning, growing, and things of that nature. So yeah, so karma, don't worry about karma. If you're a good person, you're doing good, and you're helping other people's lives, then you're fine. Then you're fine. You know, don't worry about if people are going to stumble or fall, because it's their choice. It's their choice. So you got to be able to be vocal about your experiences, but be mature minded in what you talk about and what you discuss. And I think at the end of the day, that's pretty much what it's all about. Man, I was going to read some scriptures too about this, but I think pretty much what the Spirit wanted me to talk about was talked about here. So yeah. So thank you all for joining me in chat room. I appreciate you all very much. Love yourself. Keep shining bright. Be the inspiration and change that you want to see in your life, and it will help others as well, because how you live your life, it is a reflection of what people will see. So like when I go to the gym today, you know, they'll see my determination of like, oh, hey, you know, he's determined to work out. He's not slacking around. I don't slack around at the gym. I work out till I pass out. But I try not to get that state because I still have to drive home. So yeah. So, you know, it's just, you know, people will observe you. And that's why it's so important to be an inspiration to yourself, because you're going to be an inspiration to others. And when you're living good and you're bringing good vibes to the world, people are going to see that. They're going to reflect on it. So yeah. So anyways, love yourself. Keep shining bright. I'll talk to y'all later.